Hi everyone, this is Celia, and as you can see from my t-shirt, today we're going to talk about One Piece Stampede. Last week I saw the movie because it's out in the theaters in France, like a fairly normal movie would be. It has less time, of course, but it's still almost every day in quite a few theaters. So uh, I kind of consider it to be like a normal movie as opposed to pretty much any other anime movie. I think except maybe Dragon Ball Broly. I don't remember the name of the movie. But yeah, I think those two are one of the only exceptions I've seen to anime movies like that being out in the theater in France. So I was pretty happy for that because we couldn't get that with a Gold or a Strong Gold or Z. And it's kind of sad because story wise they were kind of better. Uh, but it's also normal because this movie is it's to celebrate the anime, and I've personally been following the anime for 16 years. The actual anime is 20 years old, so I've been following it. I've been following One Piece for a while, obviously. Granted, I kind of went back and forth on the anime. I mostly just watched the fillers and the movies because, at some point the animation became a bit too weird for my taste. So I also kind of stayed away from the fandom because for a while it was mostly Zoro versus Sanji, who's the strongest, and like there's this guy who trains most of his time when he's not napping, and there's this guy who spends most of his time in the kitchen or by cleaning it or cooking or doing what a cook does. Obviously they don't have the same strength level and they don't value fighting in the same way, so I never really understood why people absolutely wanted to to put them against each other. They had their rivalry, but it. I think their rivalry is a lot friendlier than what a lot of fans seem to want from that. So yeah, that kind of puts me off from the fandom for a while. Also, all the people shipping Luffy was a bit weird, even if I ended up shipping him, kind of. Like, it took me 15 years, but I found one person that I don't mind being in a ship with him. So I guess that's kind of shipping it, in that it doesn't bother me. But whatever. I've I've been out of the fandom for a while. I mostly just update some of my stuff, and some people reblog it sometimes. Others, but that's yeah. Sorry. So I just came from. Why do I keep saying I just came? I've seen Stampede last week, and I really loved it. Despite and as I think it's been become obvious, I don't follow One Piece because I love watching the fights. I've spent a lot of time, rewatching the Is Blue saga because at first in France, only the first 50 episodes had been a bit bought, so that they were the only ones that you can see on TV and only on certain channels. And I didn't have access to much of the manga. And well, back then, scan translations were fan translations weren't really that common. It became more common a few years later, but at the time, there weren't many, and I didn't really understand English that well, so they were a lot more reduced than you might think. Well, than you might expect today. And so, I was kind of, I just rewatched pretty much from, the beginning to the point where Nami really joins, so after the hour-long arc, that's kind of the part that was that went on repeat. And so, I'm very familiar with this part of One Piece. It's the part that I'm the most familiar with. And East Blue was a breeze. Like, how to say that? Luffy, he didn't really have to put much effort in his fights. Like, sure, it wasn't, they weren't all extremely easy, but he still won fairly easily compared to what happens after he reaches Grand Line. The amount of injuries definitely isn't the same. And that's my main exposure to One Piece. At least I think for a year, that's pretty much all that I've a year or two. That's most of what I've known about One Piece, and it kind of shaped the way I view the series. So the fights aren't that important to me, which is very weird considering that I actually loved this movie, which is based around fighting. But I think it's also because the fighting is kind of an excuse to have characters interact with each other, which is the characters are one of the main reasons I love One Piece. It's the quality writing when it comes to characters, and of course I think we're all thinking of the terrible backstories that they all have, but that's really not exactly what I was thinking of, because it's really always just in the back of my mind, but not really at the forefront. But it's nice to have, for example, Luffy and Kid interacting, or just seeing Smoker and Tashigi interacting with each other, and then seeing things you wouldn't. You might have thought of, but you haven't actually seen, like Sabo and Smoker. Like in Alabasta, you had Ace and Smoker, and seeing it, it's sheer fan service, but they tried to put it around a story. Because of that, the story is kind of weak. It still mostly holds together. I've seen people, be mad about things like I don't remember the name of the bad guy. There's Buena Fiesta, I think, and then there's the one who was part of the Roger crew. Well, you know who I'm talking about. And when he becomes this huge mass of alloys, I think that's how you say it. This huge mass of metal, and he doesn't move anymore. He's huge, but he's not really a fighter, and a lot of people were disappointed about it. But we've been explained that the guy received a buster call. Like, he survived the buster call, but he was captured, and his goal is to be able to survive another one, and to be able to come back from it, and to be able to still fight. And for that, you have to be a fortress. You can't. You have to take it full on, and then be able to punch back. And his technique is kind of the only way you can do that, and that was his goal. His goal wasn't exactly to just fight against other pirates. His goal was to have the pirates fight each other. they're kind of meaningless to him. Like some of them are a bit interesting, like Luffy, for example, because he has potential, but that's all they were to him. His goal was the Buster Call, and he got it. Well, he thought he got it, and that's why he transformed. Um, and or he transformed to get it. I don't really exactly remember the order. It's been a bit. It's been a week, so it's a bit too long for me to remember the exact details. But it made sense, and it's kind of a very traumatic event to receive this kind of firepower on you, and then to be imprisoned for about 20 years. So yeah, that's he's kind of weak for his reasonings about strength and everything, in the sense that it's not the first character we've seen who does that. So that doesn't make him especially more interesting than any other bad guy. But it wasn't badly done in itself. I know a lot of people don't really care about basic trauma, uh, and it just made sense for the character, so I didn't mind it. And I think one of the other main complaints I've seen was, the fact that Luffy gets to be the one to beat him. Uh, Again, I didn't have that many issues because, he was just reconstructing when Luffy beat him. And so he was still weak. It was a very new armor, and it wasn't completely done when Luffy beat him. So in itself, it wasn't that big of a deal to me. And at the end of the day, it's still mostly a festival for fan service, and I don't think having the characters struggle more would have been that interesting. And they managed to find a way that was kind of the bare minimum they could have thought of, but still enough that it actually works. There was a whole alliance that weakened him before he could beat him. It's not the first time it happened. When he was fighting Doflamingo with Law, Law definitely weakened Doflamingo quite a bit before Luffy took him. So it's a team effort every time. Even if Luffy is the one who gets to give the last punch or the last kick or whatever, he's not the only one to fight, and it's not just his victory. He's just the last one to hit, so he gets all the XP. That's pretty much how I see it. When you play an RPG, you've got the whole team fighting, and sometimes in some of them, only the ones you all get XP, but the one who hits, who gives the last hit is the one who gets most. He is the one who gets a bit more XP than all of the others. And that's kind of the same thing. Luffy gets the glory because he's the last one to punch, but that doesn't mean he's the only one who mattered in the fight. So that wasn't a big deal for me. And I just enjoyed all the characters we could see. The colors and the animation was great. I was in a room, I think. Yeah, that's how you say it. Well, anyway, the room I saw it in was full of fans. So when we got the first opening and the first ending, of course, everyone was singing. Apparently, also some people forgot how movies work because because they forgot that when the light was on, the movie obviously was not going to come on, and yet they were disappointed when we got advertising. Honestly, the troll in me was kind of happy. It was very fun to see people being that disappointed for something that was pretty obvious. But that's just because I'm a very mean person. Clearly, I make fun of people a lot, and just that aside, it was a very enjoyable experience to have. I don't think it's a movie that's going to last uh, in time. You're going to think back on it as a fond memory, but it's not a story that you can rewatch and still find new thing you can think about. It's not canon. It's semi-canon in the same way that One Piece Party is semi-canon. If this situation had happened, that's how the characters would have behaved. But that's not what happened, and it probably won't happen because the circumstances don't allow it to happen. For example, um, it's supposed to happen right around the end of Totland, and yet the whole crew is together, and Lo was back with his own crew. And by the way, I'm really happy that we finally get him in a movie. I love this character. He's not my favorite, but he's definitely become one of my favorite. I like trolls, and he's a huge troll. That's how he's been portrayed since the very beginning. I know a lot of people like to think of him as the mystery and everything. Uh, the type, the very dark and mysterious guy who will outthink and outsmart everyone. And he's definitely smarter than a lot of characters. But really, most of what I remember from his first appearance was him trolling the other supernovas and then him trolling the Marines. He was mostly just having fun and making fun of the others. And just doing his own thing. So I have a really hard time reconciliating this image with the whole mysterious mastermind and everything, because he definitely he thinks a lot. He's very smart, and he'll plan if he has to. But overall, he seems pretty when he's not dealing with trauma and with putting his crew in danger, he tends to be a lot like Luffy. They definitely have a lot in common. So I like the character a lot, and I don't remember why I went on this tangent, but I was really happy to see him in Stampede. There wasn't a lot of him, obviously, because they have a lot of characters to put in the movie. But the little we saw of him was pretty fun, and he wasn't as much of a damsel in distress as I expected, which I was kind of disappointed about, and also kind of happy about, because it's always fun to have him need to be saved by Luffy. But at the same time, it's nice to remember that he can deal with things on his own, and usually he's pretty good at not needing the main character to save him, despite what a lot of people seem to think. Um, so that was nice. It was nice to see more of the supernovas. I was really happy to finally see Bonnie fight. I was always curious about how she handled her fruits. I kind of expected a Tylee version from Avatar, and in the end that's kind of what we got. Obviously they don't share the same fighting style, but But the way they interact with their opponents is very similar, and I was really happy to see that. I don't know if that's how it's actually going to happen in canon, but if I count the movie as semi-canon as I do take it, that's something that was pretty great. Ex Drake also. I love dinosaurs. It was great. I was really happy to see him try to eat the bad guy and not manage to eat the bad guy. But anyway, that was still. I don't know how to speak anymore. I'm sorry. um, that was a lot of things. It was a bit messy in the way it was handled. You kind of jumped from one fight to the others. Uh, Overall, it was pretty. I think it was pretty well handled considering the huge amount of characters they had to deal with, and I think the thing I wanted to save for the last, because it was what my very favorite thing of the movie. Okay, I think a lot of people love Usopp because he's a great character, but it's not just that. Though I'm so happy that he got the last hit. Like, he's the one who completely defeated the bad guy, and that was such an enjoyable moment. And I think any person who's even slightly liked Usopp in their life was pretty happy about that. But what got me most is the Luffy and Usopp friendship. It's one of my favorite relationship in the series, and the part in Water 7 totally broke my heart, but it's also what cemented their friendship as one of my favorites, because it's such a special bond. Zoro and Luffy have this kind of partner in crime feel to them, but Zoro is still kind of uh, he's Luffy's subordinate, but he's also kind of a big brother. And, overall, there's always a bit of hierarchy between them, whether it's because Zoro sometimes takes care of Luffy. A lot less now, but, there were times in the beginning where, he had to kind of keep Luffy from doing something too stupid. And yes, it actually happens. But the thing is, with Usopp, it's really different. There's kind of the captain crew member relationship that they have. Though obviously Luffy doesn't captain like a normal captain, so there's always going to be the hierarchy feeling you can have from him being the captain. Isn't I'm the captain, you have to obey my orders. Though it kind of they have to obey him, but it's more that he does whatever he wants and kind of fuck what who fuck what's going to happen next and fuck what all the others think. So he does what he wants, but it's not so much because he's the captain as it is because he's himself. So they have this captain crew member dynamic, but at the same time, as just people, you can see they're the same age, and they're just two kids who have fun together, and in this sense they have a lot more equality in their relationship than a lot of the other characters have with Luffy. And that's why Usopp is definitely Luffy's best friend. And just this whole movie, well, not the whole movie, but a lot of the movie was about that friendship. And how much they trust and love one another. And I was just so happy just to see that. Like, honestly, they could have completely messed up everything else. I would have been happy just with those parts. Um, as a huge fan of their friendship, I was just so happy. And that's kind of what I want to leave you on the in this, because I think really it's what they did best in this movie, and there's nothing really else I can talk about right now because I'm just filled with this, and I didn't write a layout for this video. Because the last layout I wrote actually had the video last more than 1 hour, and my phone actually couldn't stand it, and I had to delete the video. And I tried several more times, but it kind of happened in the same way. And yeah, I think the video lasted more than 1 hour, and I was talking about Detective Pikachu. And yes, I managed to last more than 1 hour on that. Um, so yeah, right now I'm not trying. I'm trying to do what I can, see what I can do without any layout, because it would have lasted a lot longer, and I might not have digressed as much as I did. I might have, because that's kind of my natural state. Um, but whatever, I talked about most of what I wanted to talk about that I can remember of. And yeah, anyway, Usopp and Luffy friendship is the best thing in One Piece, and that's what we got in this movie, and I was very happy about it. And that's kind of like in the last chapter, I was very happy about some of the pages. Um, what am I saying in the last chapter? The last chapter only had Luffy, Brook, and Chopper. Oh yeah, but Chopper was thinking about Usopp. That's why I was thinking about that. And Usopp was with Frankie, and he's just a happy little apprentice of Frankie right now. That was nice. Generally, I'm just really happy with Usopp in the. Ah, sorry, it's really late and I can't speak anymore, so I'm going to leave you on that. Usopp and Luffy friendship is the best thing ever, and we had it in this movie, and ultimately that's probably one of the only things I can remember clearly. And just, if you love these two characters and if you love their relationship, just go see the movie. You'll be happy whatever happens. And that's pretty much it. So have a good night or a good day. It's going to be night for me. It's about 10, not about 10, it's 10 p.m. for me. So good night and see you later.